Welcome to Comfort TV, the channel news, bringing you verified and balanced news from Nigeria and around the world. I am Faith Kevin. Thanks for joining us this evening. In the headlines, federal government plans peace summit to curb farmers-herders conflict. Osibanjo raises alarm over Nigeria's justice system, says court risk losing credibility. Dangote Refinery says it has ended 50 years of fuel scarcity in Nigeria. Access Bank partners Akwa Ibom government in fight against cervical cancer. Bandits about 40 in Zamfara Mosque as peace deal collapses. Labour Party demands probe of 6 months emergency rule. Fire got 6 rooms in presidential premises in Ibadan. On business news, agro imports surged to 2.2 trillion naira. Farmers blame federal government for market distortions. Nigerians can operate bank accounts without tax ID, clarifies Joint Tax Board. On the foreign scene, Malawi set to vote for next president as cost of living bites. And on sports, Champions League returns with blockbuster matchday 1 fixture. And Alonso says Mbappe is not anxious about Champions League glory. In the news, the federal government has unveiled plans for a national peace campaign aimed at ending farmer-herder clashes across the country. The initiative will be complemented by the relocation of cows and other livestock from Abuja city center to designated grazing areas. Minister of Livestock Development Eid Mukhtar Meha said the campaign is tied to the National Livestock Development Strategy, a 5-year plan to improve productivity and reduce conflict. Meha explained that the countryside should have purpose, not armored carriers. 16 states have already set up livestock ministries or structures in line with the policy. Former Vice President Professor Yemi Osibanjo has warned that the credibility of Nigeria's judiciary is under threat unless urgent reforms are carried out. Speaking in Abuja at the public presentation of civil litigation, a quick reference guide to substantive law and procedure by Oludotun Adefokpe Okuji, a retired justice, Osibanjo said, civil suits dragging for decades have eroded public confidence in the courts. He cited endless adjournments, preliminary objections, interlocutory appeals, and what he called recycled legal jargon as procedural bottlenecks that trap litigants in frustration. The former vice president also spoke on challenges in legal education, revealing that although 2 of his children were expected to study law, none did, discouraged by what he described as a mountain of books and overwhelming academic demands. Looking ahead, Osibanjo said that technology, particularly artificial intelligence, holds the potential to transform the delivery of justice in the country. He explained that AI tools can now analyze vast databases, draft legal opinions, assist judges in writing judgments, and seamlessly record proceedings. He concluded by urging lawyers, judges, and policymakers to seize the moment for reform. President and Chief Executive Dangote Refinery, Aliko Dangote, has declared that since the refinery began producing petrol a year ago, Nigeria's first decade-long struggle with fuel queues has finally come to an end. Speaking at a conference to mark the first anniversary of the launch of petrol from the 650,000 barrels per day refinery, Dangote highlighted that Nigerians have endured persistent fuel queues since 1975. However, this issue, he says, has been steadily resolved since the refinery commenced production on 3 September 2024. Acknowledging the numerous challenges the refinery has faced since its inception, Dangote emphasized the company's unwavering commitment to Nigeria and Africa. Reflecting on the challenges faced during the refinery's development, Dangote disclosed that the project involved enormous risk. He stated that he received repeated warnings from industry experts, investors, local and foreign government officials, who argued that only sovereign nations undertook such large-scale refinery ventures. He admitted that had the project failed, he would have lost all his assets to lenders. Despite opposition and economic headwinds, the refinery has successfully reduced the price of petrol from nearly 1,100 naira before production began to 841 naira. Access Bank PLC and Akwa Ibom State Government, in collaboration with the Help the Women Initiative, have launched Project UWS, Unstoppable Women, Unstoppable Spirit, a cervical cancer awareness and screening campaign aimed at saving lives and empowering women across Akwa Ibom State. Cervical cancer, according to studies, is the second most common cancer among women in the state, with a prevalence rate of 22.1%. Speaking at the launch, Nene Kunle Ogunlusi, head of women banking at Access Bank, said the initiative reflects the bank's commitment to improving health outcomes and supporting women. According to the statement from Access Bank, the project focuses on 5 key areas such as awareness campaigns, which focuses on educating over 1 million women through radio, social media, markets, and community outreaches. Also speaking at the event, Esther Graham from Access Holdings Sustainability Team highlighted the role of partnership in addressing health challenges. She noted that by working with communities, government and civil society, they were not just raising awareness but saving lives. Bandits in the early hours of yesterday attacked the mosque at Gidanturbe village in Safe local government area of Zamfara state, abducting no fewer than 40 worshippers. The attack came barely hours after a similar one at Godai village in Bukiyum local government area of the state, kidnapping over 10 persons. This is just as troops of Operation Fasanyama reportedly conducted several operations across the Northwest Theater, foiling terrorist attacks and recovering exhibits in Katsina, Kebbi, and Zamfara states. Sources in Zamfara said the attack on the mosque occurred during prayers at about 5:30 a.m. when the gunmen surrounded it and whisked away the worshippers at gunpoint. The attack, according to critical stakeholders, signaled collapse of the peace deal between Katsina and Zamfara states with the bandits' terrorism in the northwest. Recall that community leaders and bandits in Kurfi local government area of Katsina State on August 28, 2025 signed a peace agreement. The pact, according to all attendees, marked a significant step towards ending years of violence, kidnapping and castle rustling in the northwest, by extension, northern region. The Labour Party has demanded an immediate probe into the 6-month emergency rule in Rivers State. The interim National Publicity Secretary of the party, Tony Akeni, expressed the party's position on the emergency rule in Rivers State in Abuja late on Monday. Akeni alleged, among other things, that the Rivers State Sole Administrator, Admiral Ibom Eke Ibas, simply acted the script of President Bola Tinubu and his political ally, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Chief Nyesom Wike, to gain access into the state treasury and hijack the political structure. He said there are 2 designs by President Tinubu and his favorite South-South sidekick, Wike. In both plots, he said President Tinubu and Wike fully succeeded. No fewer than 6 rooms in a private residential building were gutted by fire in the early hours of Tuesday at Aginsoji Zone, Ogbere Moradeyo Oremiji area of Ibadan. The chairman of Oyo State Fire Service Agency, Mr. Maruf Akinwande, confirmed this in a statement made available to the news media in Ibadan. Akinwande said the agency's personnel received a distress call at exactly 5:55 a.m. from one Mr. Kayode, and firemen led by CFS Adeshina Ulusoji were immediately deployed to the scene. On getting to the scene of the fire incident, they said it was a private residential building of 6 rooms engulfed by fire. The chairman stated that the fire was jointly extinguished by the Oyo State Fire Service and the Federal Fire Service Ibadan Command. Akinwande said that though no casualties were recorded, the building was severely affected by the fire. He said the cause of the fire was traced to the indiscriminate dropping of a cigarette stub by one of the occupants, which ignited nearby combustibles and set the building on fire. The chairman urged all households in the state to install fire extinguishers in their respective premises to promptly put out fires whenever they occurred. Comfort TV, the channel of news, returns shortly with business, foreign and sports news. Many thanks for staying tuned. This is ComfortTV.channel news. On business, Nigeria's agricultural import bill soared to 2.22 trillion in the first half of 2025, drawing strong criticism from farmers, rice millers, and stakeholders who argue that the federal government's policies are undermining local production and worsening food insecurity. The stakeholders also criticized the recent order by President Bola Tinubu to reduce food prices. On September 11, 2025, it was reported that President Tinubu ordered a Federal Executive Council committee to further crash the prices of food items across the country. The Minister of State for Agriculture and Food Security, Sabi Abdullahi, stated this in Abuja while presenting a paper at a one-day capacity building workshop for journalists across covering the Senate. He said the President's order would be enforced to further crash prices of food items by ensuring the safe passage of products through various routes across the country. He said the presidential directive has, however, sparked criticism from farmers and rice millers who argue that mere pronouncements cannot override market forces or compensate for poor planning. The national president of the Oil Farmers Association of Nigeria, Kabir Ibrahim, explained that the cost of food will go down if transport costs go down, but that alone, he said, is not enough. Mr. Ibrahim went further to explain that with the prices so low, farmers cannot buy fertilizers. Chairman of the Competitive African Rice Forum, Peter Dama, faulted the government's approach, saying it risks alienating private operators and discouraging investment. Dama warned that persistent importation and lack of subsidies were forcing many farmers to abandon agriculture. Beyond the implementation and price directives, stakeholders also pointed to delays in mechanization efforts. In July 2024, the government launched 2,000 tractors to support farmers, but more than a year later, none have been distributed. Still on business news, the Joint Tax Board (JTB) has said that Nigerians without tax identification tax ID can continue to operate bank accounts beyond January 1, 2026. The four new tax acts recently signed by President Bola Tinubu will come into effect from January 1, 2026. And the JTB in a statement in Abuja was reacting to reports that the Tax Administration Act makes tax ID mandatory for persons who want to transact banking and other financial services in the country. According to Section 8, subsection 2 of the legislation, it makes tax ID mandatory for any persons to operate a bank account or get involved in insurance, stocks, or allied services in the country once the Act comes into force from January 1st, 2026. JTB's position is at variance with the provisions of the law as the public awaits its implementation. The provision, which imposes 5% petroleum products tax, had attracted widespread criticisms, which prompted a clarification by the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, that there is no immediate plan to implement it. On the foreign scene, Malawians are set to vote in presidential and parliamentary elections following a turbulent 5 years that have seen the economic crisis worsening in the southern African region. President Lazarus Chakwera is vying for second term, his main rival being Peter Mutharika, an octogenarian who has previously been in office. In the cities, campaigning has been overshadowed by fuel shortages, which have led to long, frustrating queues at petrol stations. The rising cost of living has also been a major concern of voters. A presidential runoff will be held if no candidate gets more than 50% of the votes cast in the election. Still on the foreign scene, an independent United Nations inquiry has concluded for the first time that Israel has committed genocide against Palestinians in Gaza and that the country's top leaders have incited genocide in what it described as the most authoritative UN finding to date. In a 72-page report released, the commission, which was set up by the UN Human Rights Council, found that Israel has committed 4 genocidal acts in the enclave since October 7, 2023, when Hamas carried out deadly attacks on Israel and launched its military campaign. These acts include the killing of Palestinians in Gaza, causing Palestinians serious bodily and mental harm, deliberately inflicting to the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. Nearly 65,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since October 7. The Israeli government has maintained it's conducting the war in Gaza in self-defense and in accordance with international law, firmly denying accusations of genocide. In sports, after the summer break, the 2025-2026 UEFA Champions League returns with match day 1 of the new league phase format. The revamped format will see 36 clubs compete in a single league table, with each team playing 8 matches. The opening fixtures are packed with high-profile clashes and intriguing matchups as big clubs begin their European campaigns. One of the standout fixtures sees Tottenham Hotspur hosting Villarreal, a long-awaited design as the Spanish side returns to Champions League action. Meanwhile, Real Madrid take on Olympique de Marseille. Juventus faces Borussia Dortmund, and Arsenal's travel to Athletic Bilbao for their opener. With so many marquee teams in action, the tone of the season may be well set. Still on sports, Real Madrid coach Xabi Alonso said that Kylian Mbappe feels no anxiety to win the Champions League for the first time as Los Blancos prepare to face Marseille. Mbappe left Paris Saint-Germain last summer to join record 15 times winner Madrid, only to see his former club go on to lift the trophy for the first time in their history. Mbappe faced his former club PSG for the first time at the Club World Cup this summer. with Madrid thrashed 4-0 in the semi-finals. However, the striker was not fully fit at the tournament in the United States because of a stomach bug and has hit the ground running with 4 goals in 4 La Liga games this season. And that's our news bulletin for today. But before we go, here is a recap of our top stories. Federal government plans summit to curb farmers' elder conflict. Osibanjo raises alarm over Nigeria's justice system, says court risk losing credibility. Dangote Refinery says it has ended 50 years of fuel scarcity in Nigeria. On business news, agro imports surged to 2.2 trillion naira. Farmers blame federal government for market distortions. On the foreign scene, Malawi set to vote for next president as cost of living bites. And on sports, Champions League returned with blockbuster match day 1 fixtures. Thanks for watching. For breaking news, exclusive interviews and more, follow us online at ComfortTV.channel on all platforms. Remember to like and share our videos, subscribe to our channel and click on the notification bell so you don't miss out on any updates. I am Faith Kevin. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed.